Hi children, good morning all of you. How are you all? Okay. See children, we are already going through this one, the lesson called energy from the sun. See, we already know that the sun is the principal source of energy for all planets in our solar family, isn't it? So what is that energy is called which is emitted by the sun constantly? It's what called children? Very good. Radiation. What is it called? It is called radiation. Then what is the energy called which is received by the earth or incoming radiation from the sun towards the earth's surface? It's what called children? Very good. Insolation. It's what called insolation. See children, does the earth receive the 100% energy from the sun? It actually comes from the sun in the form of light and another one heat. We discussed, no? So the energy reaches to the earth in the form of heat and light. Now we see that does the earth receive the 100% energy from the sun? No. Why? Because of what reason? Earth is a solid body. I think you might have heard about solids, liquids, gases in our science subject. So solids are what actually called aqueous. Transparent bodies, aqueous bodies, I think you heard about these names. So what these aqueous bodies, they reflect the energy. So they don't actually absorb the energy, and some of its energy may be reflected back, isn't it? So we already discussed that is what actually called mirror image effect. When you see when I am seeing in the mirror, so I can see my face or I can see my body because of what reason? That it is a aqueous body and it is not allowing the rays to pass through. So like that, similarly here, surface of the earth is a solid body which doesn't allow the sun rays which actually to pass through, and because of that reason some of its energy may be reflected back. But even before reaching to the earth's surface, some of the energy may be reflected into the sky. You see that I'm reading here, sun's rays and the earth's surface, even the rays that reach the ground do not hit the earth's surface uniformly. This is because what the curved nature of the earth's surface. You see that we know that what is the shape of the earth? It's in spherical shape. We all know that. Because of its shape, when it is facing the sun, it doesn't get the sun rays directly. So some of its part may be what you find too far from the sun, and the near place may get the sun rays very quickly, and it absorbs much energy from the sun. That's what middle part of the earth, isn't it? Middle part of the earth, when it is facing the sun like this, you find here the middle part. This is what actually mostly the middle part is called equatorial region, the latitude which is passing through the middle of the earth. So because of its curve, you see that curves means what? It has some what bends. So it's not a flat surface landform like this, just like the floor in our homes. No, we cover the floor with tiles or what we find some other thing. What we find, we make it a flat surface area. But does earth look like that? No. So when you compare the pictures here, given two pictures are given here, see the picture one here, you can better understand this picture in other picture I will show you. See here, this one. Can you see here children? One, when the energy is reaching towards the earth's surface, it's absorbing only 51%. Then what about 49%? Out of 100%, it is receiving only 51%. Then what about remaining 49%? It's what we can see here, 20% scattered and reflected by clouds. So even before reaching to the earth, 20% of the energy is being reflected or scattered by the clouds. Next you see here, Here you can observe how much of this one? 6%. 6% of energy is scattered by atmosphere. Do you know what is atmosphere, children? I think you might have heard this name. It's nothing but thin layer of gases. You might have observed that nitrogen, CO2, carbon dioxide, O2, oxygen, and some other dust particles. So all these what actually form as a thin layer. This is what actually called atmosphere. And you see that 19% of its energy may be absorbed and scattered by both clouds and atmosphere. Both clouds and atmosphere. And 4% of its energy reflected back into the space or into the sky by the Earth's surface. Isn't it? So this is what you can understand. This is the energy which is what actually reflected by the earth. You can see the same picture here also. You can find in your textbook. So what is this energy, children, called, which is reflected by the earth into the space? You can see here a word called terrestrial radiation. Terrestrial radiation, the energy which is reflected by the earth. The energy emitted by the sun is what called solar radiation. The energy which is reflected by the earth is what called terrestrial radiation. Did you understand? The energy received by the earth from the sun is what called insolation. Children, you should have to remember all these terminological words and you have to write them in sentences. One word sentences. Okay. You see here, because of its curvature nature, you find here the middle part is what called equator. Middle part is what actually called equator. Towards north of equator, it's what they call northern hemisphere, or the lines which have been drawn, imaginary lines towards north are what called northern latitudes. Okay, these are what called southern latitudes. Then what is it actually called in the north part here? This is what called north end point, North Pole. The south end point is what called South Pole. Okay, so here this part of the world receives sun rays or energy from the sun which fall directly, which is what we can say that right angle direction. You come across in a mathematics 90 degrees angle, right angle direction. So they fall straightly. Whereas the places which are far from this, you see that either northern latitude or southern latitude. So they may actually fall from the sun's rays. So here you can observe slanting fall. అంటే ఏటవాలు. So the middle part it receives energy in right angle direction. So this area is very small and it receives much energy. But these areas are too long and it reaches to far area and it what occupies much area and it receives less amount of energy. That's what you can see here. You find equator is 0 degrees longitude, isn't it? Poles are 90 degrees latitude is what actually north latitude, North Pole. South Pole is what actually 90 degrees south latitude is what called South Pole. Okay, so you see that when you take 0 degrees longitude towards north of, when angle of latitudes will increase, the amount of energy received by the earth will decrease. This is what the term we use here, angle of ఇన్సిడెన్స్. అంటే ఏంటి, యాంగిల్ పెరిగే కొద్దీ అక్కడ ఆ ప్లేస్ రిసీవ్ చేసుకునేటువంటి అమౌంట్ ఆఫ్ ఎనర్జీ తగ్గుతుంది అనమాట. యూ కెన్ సీ బెటర్ అండర్స్టాండ్ ఇన్ దిస్ టేబుల్. చూడండి, ఫర్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్, ఇఫ్ 0 degrees latitude or ఈక్వటర్ రిసీవ్స్ 100 units of energy, అంటే 100 units of energyని ఈక్వటర్ రిసీవ్ చేసుకుంది అనుకోండి. At 45 degrees of latitude, like in the north, Japan, how much of energy it is receiving? 75. అంటే ఇక్కడ ఎంత తగ్గింది మనకి? It reduced 25 units. When again the angle increased here, 66.5, polar circle, or it is what called in the north Arctic circle, in the south Antarctic circle. So here how much of energy they are receiving? Only 50 units. And again another 25 reduced here. When compared with 0 degrees latitude, 50%, 50 units again. And for north, towards North Pole and South Pole, the areas are receiving only 40 units of energy. And it reduced nearly about 60 units. That means what we can understand, when angle is increasing, the energy is decreasing. Did you understand? When angle is decreasing, energy will increase. That means mostly the 0 degrees longitude, the place is the highest place which the place which receives the highest amount of energy. You see children, here you have given some questions. Where will the sun fall more slanting? In Japan or North Pole? As we discussed, slanting అంటే ఏటవాలుగా ఎక్కడ ఎక్కువ పడుతుంది? Do you find in the North Pole or Japan? Because North Pole is located at which latitude? 90 degrees latitude. Japan 45 degrees. అంటే ఎక్కడ ఎక్కువ స్లాంటింగ్ ఉంటుంది మనకి? యా, వెరీ గుడ్. We find in the North Pole area. So where will sun rays fall more intensively? In Andhra or Rajasthan? You have to go through the political map of India, and you have to find out the location of Andhra Pradesh and Rajasthan, and you have to observe the line which is passing through the middle of our country. Like as we discussed now, this line you can observe 23 and of northern latitude, Tropic of Cancer. So you find out through which state it is passing. That state will get more energy. That is what, because of what reason? The fall of right angle direction of sun rays. Okay. Now another question is, see that if the earth were flat and not curved, then think what will get more heat, Japan or equator or both equally? Here you have been given a logical question. You have to think that earth is not in a spherical shape. It's just like a flat surface area. That is what, like a table landform. Then do you think that only Japan or equator receives much energy, or Japan receives, or both may receive equal energy? That you have to think logically, that when it is flat surface area, that do we find the rays of sun fall what equal in all places, you find. Next you go through the globe. If you don't have globe, you can find out atlas. I posted you one atlas, digital atlas also. Observe political map of the world and find out which countries are hotter and which countries are cooler. Basing on what you can do, children, this one, the three major latitudes. 0 degrees latitude, north 23 and of northern latitude is what actually called Tropic of Cancer, and southern one Tropic of Capricorn. So you have to find out if the countries are located in this area, they are hotter. If the countries are away from this area, you can say that they are cool, the areas with cool temperature. So find out in the world map and write the names of those countries. You see children, this figure you can understand here. In this figure you can see angle of incidence that you find in this figure. The B1 you find here. This is what you find the right angle direction. It occupies very small area, and but it gives much intention and much energy to this area. That mostly it is the equatorial region. And whereas you find this one A, this area, you find it is what slanting fall of sun rays. So it occupying much area and receiving less energy. And you can see that even though equatorial region it is receiving much energy, but it is not as much what we find heat temperature it is receiving. What is that reason for this? You find mostly it is cloudy by midday because of temperature, high temperature. You come across in the previous class that when temperature increases, and it leads to what the you studied now about water cycle. So it leads to what? Evaporation of water. So when it leads to evaporation of water, it what actually leads to formation of clouds. And then when clouds form here, and it does lot lead to the further process, fall of rainfall. So this what happens in equatorial region every day, almost every day, almost 365 days the areas located in equatorial region get rainfall. That's why they are not as warm as the other regions immediately towards north and south of equator. That means they are what actually we can say that Tropic of Cancer and Tropic of Capricorn. And a Tropic of Capricorn, Tropic of Cancer, you see that this one Tropic of Cancer, this one what? Tropic of Capricorn. So ఈ టూ ఏరియాస్లో కంటే ఇక్కడ మనకి ఎక్కువ అంత వేడి ఉండదు. బికాస్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ రీజన్? ఇక్కడ మనకి డైలీ రెయిన్ పడుతుంది ఆఫ్టర్నూన్. సో ఇక్కడ మనకు అంత ఈక్వటోరియల్ రీజన్ అంత రెయిన్ పడదు. బికాస్ ఆఫ్ వాట్ రీజన్? ఇక్కడ ఇవాపరేషన్ ఎక్కువ జరుగుతుంది. డ్యూ టు వాట్ రీజన్? యూ ఫైండ్ high temperature, and we know that major oceans are also located in this part. What are they? You find out in a world map. You can find out in the world map 3 major oceans are there in this area. Okay, because of that reason you find much evaporation takes place. Okay children, you have to go through this one, you study this one text and write the major points and terminological words in your notebook. Okay, thank you.